In the bustling suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia, nestled among towering oaks and manicured lawns, lay Willow Creek Estates, a community that prided itself on order, uniformity, and an unspoken code of perfection. It was the kind of place where every mailbox matched, every fence was freshly painted, and every resident knew their place in the grand scheme of neighborhood harmony. For many, it was a haven from the chaos of city life. But for Marcus Thompson, a 42-year-old special agent with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation (GBI), it was meant to be a sanctuary, a place to recharge after years of high-stakes operations, chasing down organized crime rings and dismantling drug networks that plagued the state's underbelly. Marcus had poured every ounce of his hard-earned savings into this modest two-story home on Elmwood Lane. As a black man who had risen through the ranks of law enforcement against odds that often felt insurmountable, he carried the weight of his journey like a badge of honor. Orphaned young and raised by a grandmother who instilled in him the values of resilience and integrity, Marcus had turned his pain into purpose. He'd spent 2 decades navigating dangerous undercover assignments where one wrong move could mean the end. Now, at last, he craved simplicity, a quiet porch swing, a garden to tend, and nights uninterrupted by the blare of sirens or the buzz of encrypted radios. The day he moved in was a crisp autumn morning in October 2024. The leaves were turning shades of amber and gold, crunching underfoot as Marcus unloaded boxes from his rugged black Jeep Wrangler. The vehicle was more than transportation. It was an extension of his life on the job. Equipped with reinforced tires for off-road pursuits, tinted windows for discretion, and a hidden compartment for sensitive gear, it had seen him through chases across rural backroads and stakeouts in seedy motels. To secure it, Marcus always used a heavy-duty steering wheel lock, a bright red bar that clamped across the dash, deterring thieves and symbolizing his unyielding commitment to protection. As he carried a stack of books toward the front door, a figure approached from across the street. She was a woman in her late 50s, dressed in crisp capri pants, a floral blouse, and a wide-brimmed sun hat that screamed authority. In her hand was a tablet, not a clipboard, but it served the same purpose, a tool for judgment. Her name was Evelyn Hargrove, the self-proclaimed guardian of Willow Creek's Homeowners Association (HOA), retired from a career in corporate compliance. Evelyn had channeled her knack for spotting infractions into a full-time crusade. To her, rules weren't suggestions, they were sacred texts, and she was their high priestess. "Good morning," Evelyn called out, her voice laced with a saccharine politeness that barely masked her scrutiny. She eyed the Jeep parked in the driveway, her gaze lingering on the red lock. "I'm Evelyn Hargrove, HOA president. Welcome to Willow Creek. I see you're settling in." Marcus set the boxes down and wiped his brow, offering a warm smile. His grandmother had taught him to lead with kindness, even when sensing tension. "Pleasure to meet you, Ms. Hargrove. Marcus Thompson. Just getting the last of my things inside." Evelyn nodded, tapping her tablet screen. "We like to keep things neat here. Most residents park in their garages to maintain curb appeal. And that device on your steering wheel, it gives off a certain vibe, don't you think? Like we're in a rough part of town." Marcus chuckled lightly, not wanting to escalate on day one. "It's just for security. I've had my share of close calls in my line of work. Better safe than sorry." Her eyebrows arched. "Work? What do you do, if you don't mind me asking?" "I'm in law enforcement," Marcus replied vaguely, adhering to his habit of discretion. Undercover agents didn't broadcast details. "Special investigations." Evelyn's lips pursed as she jotted a note on her tablet. "Interesting. Well, per Section 3.2 of our covenants, vehicles must not detract from the community's aesthetic. I'll send you a copy of the guidelines. We wouldn't want any issues, would we?" Marcus nodded politely. "Appreciate the heads up. I'll review them." He picked up the boxes and headed inside, but he felt her eyes boring into his back. Peace, it seemed, would not come easily. In the weeks that followed, Marcus threw himself into making the house a home. He planted a vegetable garden in the backyard, drawing on memories of his grandmother's plot where she'd taught him patience. Through seasons of growth, mornings, he'd jogged the winding paths of Willow Creek, waving to neighbors who returned the gesture with varying degrees of warmth. Evenings, he'd unwind on his porch with a book, the Jeep securely locked in the driveway, his garage still cluttered with unpacked tools and mementos from his past life. But Evelyn's presence loomed like a shadow. She'd patrol the streets in her golf cart, stopping to measure grass heights or note unapproved flower colors. Marcus noticed her slowing down whenever she passed his home, her tablet always at the ready. Whispers from neighbors painted a fuller picture. Jamal Washington, a young father living next door, leaned over the fence one afternoon while Marcus grilled chicken. "Watch out for Evelyn," Jamal warned, glancing around. "She's got a thing for standards. Last year, she fined a family for having a basketball hoop, said it encouraged rowdy behavior." Marcus flipped the meat, the sizzle filling the air. "Sounds intense, but I'm not here to cause trouble. Just want to live my life." Jamal nodded. "I get it. You're the new guy, though. She likes to test boundaries." As days turned to weeks, the subtle jabs escalated. Marcus found notes taped to his door, reminders about driveway parking, suggestions to conceal unsightly security measures. He ignored them at first, focusing instead on his work. A major case was brewing, a multi-state trafficking ring that had him pulling late nights analyzing data in his home office. The Jeep carried encrypted laptops and surveillance drones, tools essential to his role in the task force. He couldn't risk parking it out of sight. Quick access was key. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange, Marcus returned from a briefing. Exhaustion etched his features, but a sense of purpose fueled him. He'd just uncovered a lead that could save lives. Parking the Jeep, he noticed Evelyn standing at the end of his driveway. Arms crossed. "Mr. Thompson," she said, her tone sharper than before. "We've discussed this. That lock is an eyesore. It makes the whole lane look unsafe." Marcus sighed, rubbing his temples. "Ms. Hargrove, with respect, it's my property. The lock stays. It's for protection, mine, and the community's, in a way." Her eyes narrowed. "Protection from what?" "This is Willow Creek, not downtown Atlanta. If you're implying crime, perhaps you brought it with you." The words hung heavy, laced with an undercurrent Marcus recognized all too well, prejudice masked as concern. He'd faced it in his career, assumptions based on his skin color, doubts about his authority. But he held his ground, drawing on the inspiration from mentors who'd paved the way for black officers like him. "I'm not implying anything, just stating facts. Good night." As he walked inside, Evelyn fumed. In her mind, Marcus was a disruptor, challenging the order she'd built. She didn't know his story, the boy who'd studied by candlelight after his grandmother's power was cut, the man who'd mentored at-risk youth in his off hours, turning potential criminals into community leaders. To her, he was just the new resident with the suspicious Jeep. The tension simmered, but Marcus remained motivational in his approach. He started a small neighborhood watch group, not out of spite, but to foster unity, inviting Jamal and others. He shared tips on home security, emphasizing empowerment over fear. "We've all got stories," he'd say, "but together, we build something stronger." Attendance grew, drawing even skeptical residents. Evelyn, however, saw it as encroachment on her territory. By mid-November, the first real confrontation erupted. At the monthly HOA meeting in the community center, a sterile room with folding chairs and a podium, Evelyn held court. Marcus attended, hoping to bridge gaps. But when she called out his ongoing violations, the room tensed. "Mr. Thompson's vehicle continues to flout our aesthetic guidelines," Evelyn declared, projecting photos of the Jeep on a screen. "This lock suggests insecurity, lowering property values. I propose a fine of $50 per day until compliance." Murmurs rippled. Marcus stood, his voice steady and inspirational. "Ladies and gentlemen, I respect the rules, but this lock is necessary for my work in law enforcement. It's not about defiance, it's about safety. Let's focus on what unites us, building a community where everyone feels secure." A few nodded, inspired by his calm demeanor. But Evelyn banged her gavel. "Rules are rules, motion passes." As Marcus left, Jamal clapped his shoulder. "That took guts. You're showing them how to lead without shouting." Marcus smiled faintly. It's not about me. It's about proving that perseverance pays off. Little did he know, Evelyn's obsession was deepening. In her home office, surrounded by stacks of bylaws, she plotted. Whispers to board members painted Marcus as uncooperative, perhaps even shady. Rumors spread. Why the heavy security? What's he hiding? Neighbors who once waved now. Averted eyes, fear of Evelyn's wrath keeping them silent. Yet Marcus drew strength from his roots. Each morning, he'd meditate on his grandmother's words. Storms pass, but character endures. He volunteered at a local youth center, teaching kids about resilience, turning his personal trials into lessons. Obstacles are opportunities, he'd tell them. Face them head on, and you inspire others. As winter approached, the chill in the air mirrored the growing frost between Marcus and Evelyn. She escalated with certified letters demanding removal of the offensive device. Marcus responded politely but firmly, enclosing a vague letter from his agency confirming the Jeep's official use. Evelyn dismissed it as forgery, her ego blinding her to the truth. One fateful night, as snow flurries danced outside, Evelyn stared at the Jeep from her window. Enough, she muttered. Purchasing bolt cutters online, she convinced herself she was a hero, safeguarding Willow Creek from undesirables, unbeknownst to her. Marcus's Jeep held more than gear. It symbolized his unbreakable spirit, forged in adversity. The stage was set for a clash that would test limits, reveal truths, and ultimately inspire a community to rise above division. Marcus, ever the motivator, sensed the brewing storm, but held fast to hope. Change comes from within, he'd remind himself. But Evelyn's next move would shatter the fragile peace, unlocking a cascade of events neither could foresee. As the holidays approached in Willow Creek Estates, the neighborhood twinkled with lights strung across eaves and wreaths adorning doors. But beneath the festive facade, an undercurrent of unease rippled through the community. Marcus Thompson, undeterred by Evelyn Hargrove's mounting pressure, continued to embody the inspirational figure he'd become. His neighborhood watch meetings had evolved into something more, a forum for sharing stories of overcoming challenges. Residents like Sophia Ramirez, a single mother juggling 2 jobs, found solace in Marcus's words. Life throws curveballs, he'd say, drawing from his own experiences of racial profiling during his early career. But every setback is a setup for a comeback. Let's support each other. Evelyn, however, viewed these gatherings as a threat to her authority. From her perch as HOA president, she saw Marcus's influence as subversive. He's turning this into his personal fiefdom, she'd complain to her inner circle during bridge games. Her obsession grew, fueled by a lifetime of needing control stemming from a chaotic childhood where rules were her only anchor. But her methods alienated more than they unified. The escalation began in earnest with a barrage of fines. Marcus's mailbox overflowed with notices. $50 for the steering lock, $25 for unauthorized parking, even $10 for a garden stake deemed non-conforming. He paid them initially, not out of agreement, but to avoid distraction from his task force work. The trafficking case was heating up. His Jeep ferried him to clandestine meetings where he coordinated with federal partners. Inside, hidden panels concealed body cams and encrypted drives holding evidence that could dismantle a network responsible for countless overdoses. One crisp December afternoon, Marcus returned from a grueling stakeout to find Evelyn and to board members on his lawn, measuring the Jeep with a tape measure. This vehicle exceeds the driveway allowance by 2 inches, Evelyn announced triumphantly, her tablet glowing with regulations. Marcus approached calmly, his agent training kicking in. Ms. Hargrove, this is harassment. I've complied where reasonable, but this crosses a line. The board members shifted uncomfortably. One, an elderly gentleman named Harold Finch, muttered, maybe we should talk this out. Evelyn shot him a glare. Rules don't negotiate. Expect another fine. As they left, Jamal Washington emerged from his garage. She's losing it, man. Half the neighborhood is talking about how she's fixated on you. Marcus nodded, inspirational. As ever, it's not about winning a fight. It's about standing for what's right. If I back down, what message does that send to my mentees? That evening, Marcus hosted a special watch meeting focused on community empowerment. He shared his story, growing up in poverty, facing discrimination in the academy, yet rising to lead operations that saved lives. Inspiration isn't about perfection. He told the group of 15 residents, it's about persistence. Let's turn this tension into unity. Word spread, and even some of Evelyn's allies attended covertly. But Evelyn countered with an emergency HOA bulletin emailed to all. Beware unauthorized gatherings, potential violations ahead. She began canvassing doors, spreading doubts about Marcus. Why the secrecy? That lock screams trouble. We deserve transparency. Doubt seeded. Neighbors grew divided. Some, like Sophia, defended Marcus. He's helped my son with homework, taught him about goals. Others parroted Evelyn's fears. What if he's bringing work home? Dangerous elements, Marcus felt. The strain, but channeled it motivationally. He started a mentorship program at the local rec center, pairing kids with residents for skill sharing. Adversity builds character, he'd encourage. His grandmother's voice echoed, lead by example, and hearts will follow. By New Year's, the conflict peaked at the annual HOA assembly. The community center buzzed with tension. Evelyn, at the podium, unveiled a slideshow targeting Marcus's Jeep. This eyesore undermines our values. I motioned for mandatory garage parking and removal of all visible security devices. Gasps echoed. Marcus rose, his presence commanding. Fellow residents, I've served the state for 20 years. Protecting communities like ours, my Jeep is essential. To that duty, instead of division, let's inspire each other. Volunteer, connect, build the neighborhood we all dream of. Applause broke out from half the room. Harold Finch seconded, Marcus is right. Evelyn, this feels personal. Evelyn's face reddened. Vote now. The motion passed narrowly, thanks to her loyalists, defeated but unbroken. Marcus reflected that night. Challenges reveal true allies, he journaled. But Evelyn, emboldened, plotted further. She researched towing services, justifying it as enforcement. Unaware of the Jeep's task force ties, she saw only defiance. As January's cold gripped Atlanta, Evelyn's whispers turned to action. She rallied a petition for Marcus's expulsion, claiming he eroded standards. Neighbors signed reluctantly, fearing reprisal. Jamal warned Marcus, she's gunning for you. Marcus responded by organizing a community cleanup, turning negativity into positivity. Dozens joined, inspired by his vision. One act of kindness ripples, he said. Yet Evelyn crossed into obsession, ordering bolt cutters discreetly. Her mind twisted. I'm the protector here. Marcus, sensing escalation, documented everything. His investigative instincts sharp. February brought a rare Atlanta snowstorm, blanketing Willow Creek in a deceptive calm. But beneath the white veil, tensions boiled over. Marcus Thompson's Jeep sat steadfast in his driveway, its red lock a beacon of his unyielding principles. His task force work intensified. The trafficking ring was unraveling, thanks to evidence stored in the vehicle's secure compartments. Late nights blurred into early mornings. But Marcus found motivation in small victories, like seeing a mentee land a scholarship. Inspired by his talks on perseverance. Evelyn Hargrove, meanwhile, had reached her breaking point. Her petitions garnered signatures, but resistance grew. Harold Finch resigned from the board, citing overreach. Sophia Ramirez started a counter-petition. Support Marcus for a united Willow Creek. Evelyn felt her control slipping, her ego bruised. He thinks he's above the law, she'd rant alone, ignoring her own hypocrisy. The incident unfolded on a frigid Saturday morning. Marcus was at headquarters, briefing on a raid. Evelyn, gloves on, bolt cutters hidden in a tote, approached the Jeep under cover of dawn. This ends now, she whispered, clamping the tool on the lock. With a grunt, she snapped it clean. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the quiet street. Heart racing, she tried the door unlocked. As Marcus trusted the lock's deterrence, sliding in, she ignored anomalies, a dashboard scanner, wiring for comms. To her, it was just clutter. She called a tow service she'd prearranged, claiming abandoned vehicle per HOA order. The driver, a burly man named Lenny Ortiz, arrived skeptical. Looks occupied, he said. Evelyn insisted, it's a blight. Tow it to impound. As chains rattled, neighbors emerged. Jamal gasped. Evelyn, stop. That's criminal. Sophia filmed from her porch. You're trespassing. Evelyn waved them off. For the greater good. The Jeep vanished down the road, leaving an empty driveway. Evelyn felt triumphant, dusting her hands. But whispers turned to outrage. She's gone mad, Harold muttered to a group. Marcus returned hours later, his world tilting at the sight. Rage surged, but training prevailed. He called his superior. Task force asset compromised. Within minutes, GBI agents mobilized. Marcus headed to impound, flashing his badge. The clerk paled, towed by HOA. That's new. Inspecting the Jeep, Marcus confirmed, gear intact. But the breach was grave. This could have exposed operations, he told Lenny, who apologized profusely, back home. Marcus confronted Evelyn across the street. You broke into my vehicle, destroyed property, and towed official equipment. Do you realize the implications? Evelyn smirked. Rules enforcement. Prove it's official. Jamal interjected. He's GBI. We've seen the badge. Evelyn faltered but doubled down. Excuses. That evening, unmarked cars arrived, lights flashing subtly. Agents interviewed witnesses. Sophia shared her video. This inspires me to stand up. The storm hit. Media caught wind. Headlines blaring HOA over each target's agent's vehicle. Evelyn's phone rang with reporters. Neighbors distanced themselves. Marcus, motivational amid chaos. Addressed to impromptu gathering. This isn't about revenge. It's a lesson in respect and unity. Let's rebuild stronger. Evelyn, isolated, began to doubt. But the unintended storm raged on. Charges looming. Vandalism, theft, obstruction. As spring thawed Atlanta's chill, Willow Creek Estates faced its reckoning. Evelyn Hargrave's actions had ignited a firestorm, with GBI investigations confirming tampering with a task force vehicle, charges filed, criminal trespass, destruction of property, interference with government operations. Evelyn, once untouchable, found herself in court, her pride shattered. Marcus Thompson testified calmly, emphasizing forgiveness over fury. This could have derailed lives, but it's a chance for growth. His words inspired the judge to mandate community service for Evelyn. Volunteering at the youth center Marcus supported. The neighborhood transformed. Evelyn, humbled, attended Marcus's sessions, learning empathy. I was blind to my own flaws, she admitted. Marcus's story went viral, motivating nationwide discussions on community and bias. He authored a book, Locks of Resilience, donating proceeds to mentorship programs. Willow Creek elected new HOA leaders, focusing on inclusion. Marcus's garden bloomed as a symbol of renewal, where neighbors gathered for barbecues, sharing stories. In the end, what began as conflict birthed inspiration. Marcus's perseverance proved, from adversity springs unity, turning enforcers into allies and neighborhoods into families.